numerous nesting and foraging areas, media coverage, and several scientific papers and reports. It looks like that there isn't a lot more to discover, but the truth is we are only beginning to learn about hawksbills in the region, and there are a lot more discoveries to be made. I'm going to present some of those potential discoveries, as well as how we got to where we are now over the course of only 4 years. The journey has been unexpected, astonishing, and encouraging. It has been 4 very, very productive years. In case you are not familiar with the story of hawksbills, turtles in the Eastern Pacific, this slide essentially shows all that we knew about the population in 2007. As you can see, we knew almost nothing. At that time, the population had been pretty much written off by most sea turtle researchers, and the only recent records were of juveniles in the Gulf of California, Mexico, and occasional rare nesting events in Costa Rica and Mexico. However, with approximately 15,000 kilometers of coastline, much of which appears suitable for hawksbills, it seemed that it's possible that more individuals of the species existed, but simply were not being reported. And by pure coincidence, in late 2007, 3 separate surveys were undertaken in different regions of the Eastern Pacific, all of which documented hawksbill turtles. Foraging juveniles were consistently documented in Mexico along the Baja California Peninsula and the central coast of the country, while numerous individuals were recorded nesting in El Salvador and Ecuador. Considering the way this information had suddenly appeared, it seemed likely we could generate more information if we made concerted efforts. With that in mind, in 2008, a workshop was held in El Salvador and brought together turtle researchers working throughout the Eastern Pacific to discuss just hawksbills in the region. The meeting was extremely productive, and we all together were able to produce the first ever maps with region-wide information on the species. The one that is in the slide here shows our knowledge of nesting information by the species for 2008. We also officially formed the Eastern Pacific Hawksbill Initiative, ICAPO, a working group whose mission is to consolidate information, promote conservation projects, and raise awareness about the species. Since 2008, ICAPO has grown with several organizations and individuals added each year, and a second workshop was held in 2010 in Nicaragua. Amazingly, research and conservation efforts have also continued to expand, with numerous in-water and nesting beach projects throughout the region, in addition to the large nesting rookery found in Bahía Jitilisco, El Salvador. An even larger nesting rookery was discovered in 2010 in Estela Padre-Ramos, Nicaragua, which received approximately 150 to 300 nests annually. One of the most surprising early findings was that both of these rookeries, which represent the largest identified in the Eastern Pacific today, are located in mangrove estuaries, and hawksbills are actually emerging along the banks of the estuary to nest. Satellite telemetry has also been implemented as part of the research process and has revealed new and unexpected findings. To date, a total of 20 hawksbill turtles have been tagged in Ecuador, El Salvador, Nicaragua, and Mexico. The satellite tracking showed that all post-nesting females exhibit short post-nesting migrations, with several being non-migratory altogether. This was quite surprising. Even more surprising was that while hawksbill turtles in other regions of the world are typically described using open coast, coral reef, and hard substrate habitats, the majority of the hawksbills in the Eastern Pacific were establishing foraging home ranges within mangrove-lined estuaries. Often, these were the same estuaries where the species was documented nesting. The use of these inshore estuaries and affinities with mangroves, saltwater forests present a previously unknown life history paradigm for adult hawksbill turtles. Along with the projects and research, ICAPO and its partners have developed a solid body of scientific literature in just 4 years. This includes reports of sightings, foraging activity, and fisheries interactions, all of which greatly aid in our attempts to understand and conserve the population. Media coverage has also been substantial, putting the Eastern Pacific hawksbills in the conservation spotlight and drawing attention to the need to recover the species. We have made some truly astonishing advances in a period of only 4 years, including, first, identification of numerous nesting and foraging sites across the Eastern Pacific, including 2 nesting rookeries of substantial size. Second, establishment of monitoring and conservation projects at several of these sites in collaboration with local partners. Third, discovery of a new behavioral paradigm, estuaries, mangroves, migration related, which has changed our view and raises additional questions about the species. And fourth, creation of a solid and growing body of literature and the generation of critical data, which are helping us more effectively evaluate and manage the population. Combined altogether, these amazing advances are truly providing opportunities and hope for recovery of hawksbills in the Eastern Pacific. Nonetheless, there is still a ton of work to do and questions to be answered. The use of novel mangrove estuary habitats raises interesting questions regarding potential dietary items, as well as the ecological role of the hawksbill in the areas. Hatchlings immersion within these estuaries also casts doubts on some of the traditional theories for the lost years and research for the information too. The limited migration patterns demonstrated by adult turtles raise questions regarding genetic stocks, the structure of the population, and its position within the global phylogeography of the species. Lastly, but perhaps most important, there remain several stretches of coastline where specific efforts to investigate hawksbill have yet to be made. We must continue to make efforts to discover and initiate protection measures in those areas, as this will be necessary to recover the population. Considering the current location of the ISTAs this year in this beautiful part of Mexico, it is important to emphasize that there are areas in this country that still lack hawksbill-specific evaluation efforts. Sites such as Islas Tres Marias in Nayarit, the central coast of Michoacán, the area of Ixtapas, Iguatanejo, and Guerrero, and numerous bays along the coast here in the vicinity of Huatulco between Crucecita and Puerto Angel have either been rumored to host nesting hawksbills or have beaches consistent with those utilized by the species in the other regions. Other remaining gaps exist in Panama, Colombia, and Ecuador. Rapid assessments have recently been undertaken or are due to start soon in some of these areas, but definitely not all. I would like to point out that the discovery of Coxfields along much of the remaining unexplored coastline is complicated by the fact that human populations in many of these areas are small. Groups such as fishermen have often served as the primary source of information for identifying important Coxfield habitats, and without this local knowledge, it's more difficult to identify the key areas to study. For example, our efforts in the Western Panama help narrow the focus, but because of many of the beaches and islands are inhabited, we simply do not know what is happening there. The mystery is confounded by the small population size and low nesting density exhibited by Eastern Pacific Coxfields. Nonetheless, for those willing to take the chance, these important discoveries are still waiting to be made. In closing, there have been some astonishing advances and achievements regarding the Coxfields in the Eastern Pacific in only 4 years. However, much remains to be done. Bit by bit, we are filling the gaps, and doing so will be necessary to recover the population. Local support has and will continue to be the key, and also key will be to be bold efforts by new and upcoming researchers, such as many of you here today. I want to thank all the people working for the Eastern Pacific Coxfield for the key role in the work I have presented today. I also want to thank our founders and the symposium for providing me with the opportunity to share this story with all of you. And I hope this talk inspires some of you to go and look for Coxfield in the Pacific.
But I would encourage you to find her during the break or our other speakers and ask them questions one-on-one. We have a couple of announcements before you go off to the lunch break. The first